Okay, we're going to take a look at reactorFS today. This is something that I initially came up with in 2005, wrote some prototype code, and then lost it during a hard drive crash. And this morning, May 6th, 2012, I decided to rewrite it in a combination of some Bash and some PHP and some SQL, and eventually there'll be some Ruby in there, I think, too. So reactorFS, it's built around that you have a lot of data of different types, and you don't have enough servers. You don't have one big giant storage server, and it's a pain to manage where things are going, and you also don't have the money to plunk and buy a huge server. You do have enough money to buy a bunch of smaller servers and smaller web servers. So the way Reactor works is you push files onto them via rsync, and the rsync maintains the path structure. So the idea is to have a unified namespace. It's a global namespace for all files. You push it on via rsync, a daemon picks it up, dumps it onto one of the back-end storage, depending on file type rules, which we'll look at in a second, and then they accumulate on the storage. Then to access them, you go by your HTTP interface, and you just pull files out, and dynamically in the background it's pulling from, it looks up in the database and determines which server has the file, and it pulls that through an fopen in PHP. The advantage of having storage like this, you could set these storage arrays to read-only so that you could back them up to tape, and you could scale these networks to however big you want. This is just an example, and this is our load balancer with 3 servers. So with a minimal setup, we'll have 3 servers. One is the front-end web server, and 2 and 3 basically are the back ends. They're like storage web servers. All they know about is their own files. There's no anything on. There's no even PHP on there. They just serve files. So let's take a look at it. Let's take first a look at the schema. We have our files, and we have storage tags, and storage types. So right now there's nothing in here. There'll be some files. You could see it's just a path and a name, and there are some tags, like we can set up file rules to say, well, if it's an MP3, then put it on storage ID 1, that sort of thing. So let's push some files on here. So we have files. We have a ton of files here. Not a ton. We have like 45 files. You could do this with a lot more. We're just going to take everything. Actually, let's divide them out. So I'm going to take, say, all the MP3s, and I'm going to push them on my local host. This is my demo rsync, and this is running as an rsync daemon. So you have to have an rsync d conf, and the double colon here delineates that it's the rsync protocol. It's a lot faster but less secure than SSH, but for our purposes this will work fine. So we're going to go push it onto the reactor, and we're going to call this MP3 with a trailing slash. I think I still need the trailing slash. I'll have to figure that out later. So that's gonna push all these files, and then we can say maybe have a video one, and we'll push. I think we have at least one movie. We'll push that on. And then I think we have some pics, so we'll try some like pings and some JPEG, whatever we got here. Okay, no JPEG, no big deal. But we do have JPEGs. Okay, good. So let's go into our GitHub repository. This is on GitHub, so I'm C3W on GitHub, and reactorFS is a public project. You'll see we have all the usual install, readme, tips. There's the SQL right there to get you started. The HTML is where this is for our head end that streams. We have our index for traversing through the path of all the files, and then React actually pulls them from the storage arrays. So those are there. What we have here is a reactor daemon, and there's a couple of ways you could run it. If you put a sleep in it, you could say sleep 10 seconds and run it every time. You should only run one of them because they don't know about it. They wouldn't know about each other. There'd be race conditions. But if you run just once, it runs serially, so nothing gets damaged. And it also won't delete files unless they've been successfully copied. So right now I'm doing a sudo. I don't recommend that, but for testing, this is what we're going to do. So it's going to process all these files here one at a time. What it's doing is it's pulling them off of one rsync and pushing them onto another rsync. Basically, it's choosing either reactor 1 or reactor 2. And if we look a little deeper, we have we'll look at Typer first. That's a little helper program I wrote. You could set up some rules, like if the file begins with 4 digits, then use the default hash, which is an MD5 kind of hash. with a modulo arithmetic to figure out which cluster to go to. Or I could say, if it's an MP3 or MP4, do the tag style. And what this will do is it'll look up into the storage tags for which storage ID handles that tag, and then it'll only select those servers or groups of servers that are in those that have that storage ID. So that's the idea there. And the default, I haven't built it out yet. The default is just hashed. So that kind of goes into the toolkit where you can see here. This is kind of the magic. It's just doing a file hash of the full file path. That's the directory and the file name modulus over the number of rows that we got when we queried our database. So that way, the query actually says like, don't, only show me servers that aren't in read only. So you only get viable candidates to push. So it takes those, does the modulus over that, and then pushes it to 1. So now take a look what we got here. We have our reactorFS. This was empty. Now we should have some data here. We have our video aligned. That looks like it got pushed to reactor 2, and it's loading. Let's see, it's saying I can't play it. Let's ignore that right now. There's some pics. We have some pictures of me. I don't know why, because I like pictures of me. And then we have some music. Say a little. You'll see reactor 1, reactor 1. These seem to be mostly reactor 1. Let's see, you got some reactor 2s here, and reactor 2 there. So it might need a little bit more tweaking to figure out. Why isn't it evenly splitting over the reactors? So anyway, that's short of it for reactorFS. It's I'd say about 6 or 7 hours work today, and I got to that. Feel free to contribute on the GitHub repository and have some fun. Bye.